They're all related. I could have put percent up here and I could say, well, I can rewrite a fraction as a percentage and have them be equivalent. I can change a percentage into a fraction, which then I could change into a ratio, which then I could call a proportional relationship. Talk to your buddy. How are you going to figure it out?
We know that students benefit in their math learning when teachers emphasize concepts in instruction. Through middle school, students begin to see increased difficulty in math concepts, which makes it more challenging for them to accurately describe the concepts in depth.
For this lesson, I was targeting EAC 4, which is taking a main idea and applying it to another lesson.
This lesson opened with a vocab square warm-up, which asked students to make connections between fractions, ratios, percents, and proportions. Morgan created this task in order to support students' access of background knowledge, use of academic vocabulary, and their selections of models and procedures ahead of solving percent increase and decrease problems for the first time.
And we ended up taking that idea of fractions, decimals, percents, and then extending that into percent increase, percent decrease. I know there were some things written down. So again, we're looking at how are all of these things connected, because they are. And we started with proportional relationships, right? Scaling, scale factor. Then we moved into ratios. Then we moved into fractions. And now we're dealing with percents. So they all are connected, but I want you to figure out how. Okay? Alex, what you got for me?
For percents and ratios, I said percents are ratios. It's important because what it can say is 20% of something can be this much of something equals this much of another thing.
Good.
Creating opportunities to point to a main idea in a lesson and how it fits into a bigger picture requires careful, intentional planning.
I think EAC 4 is one that you really have to intentionally plan. You have to know this is the goal of this lesson, and how do I take or access what the kids already have seen and say, we already know this, we're familiar with it, but let's look at it maybe this way. And knowing that this particular concept was coming up, I kind of did a lot of front loading of using multiple models and making that visible so that at any point they can re-access that bar model or that number line. Or I do remember that a fraction is part of a whole.
After the vocab square warm-up, Morgan asked her students to work on this task, which asked students to make sense of percent increases and decreases, wholes and parts, and ways to represent change.
So if you look at the two bar models that are on your paper, you have A and B. What's something you notice about A, something you notice about B, something you notice about both? I would love to hear from you, Connor. What do you notice?
That the 25% of A is out, but if you go to B, this here of 25% is not out, it's in a little.
Okay. So one of them has 25% on the out, one has 25% in. Okay. Because what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to match each of these situations, A, B, C, and D, to either diagram A or diagram B. So Daniel read B, which says this year's blueberry harvest is 75% of last year. And which graph did you match it to?
B.
To B. Why?
Because right here it shows that 25% is right there, which is a bit of a quarter. Well, it shows right here, that little space is there, and it kind of looks, it's shaded, so that means that much is from last year's.
So that's so great, bud. So this part is missing from the bar,
Yes.
right? So if 25% is missing, how much is still here?
75%. So we got a 25% decrease.
Very good. We're using vocabulary already. 25% decrease. So I know I've targeted it when they can verbalize or recognize the connection between the two. So they see it as a fraction. but then they can say, well, that also means 3 parts out of a whole. Well, that also means 30% out of 100. And so they start changing their language to match the context that we're now in.